betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not know. I said we tired with their lies. We tired with their promises that led us to a lot of damages. We tired with that speech they preach indeed, and now unique they deceive us. The thing we saw, it frustrates us. So why can't you lie? Why can't you steal? Why can't you allow the citizens to be? You see, we just tell you that why we voted you. But you fool us, you screw us, you use us and later on abuse us. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they will not to corrupt. No one to trust. My people, no one to hope on. Nobody. My hope that I have been broken. I'm telling you, brother. So where are the schools? Where are the roads? Where are the jobs that they say they could afford? But they're too selfish. The people tired with their rhetoric. People tired, they tired. You see the reason why we ask why the government betray. They have enough of time, but yeah, then stay they delay. People suffer. No work for people crying for hunger. Look at. Your vision and your mission, your intention to the nation, they poor. You got nothing to show. Nothing. So why? The government should lie. Why? But that's the question that we ask. They lie. The people fool us. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They betray us so much. I said they lie. The people fool us so. The people lie to us. The government betray us. They can lie, they can steal, they go not for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here for another one again.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Man, a lot of noise going on, man. We're trying to decipher what's right, what's wrong. So, So what's new? What's new for you?
Nothing's new for me, man. Just getting ready for end of the year and doing my planning for the next year for the business. That's about it.
So you're not one of those people who wait until Christmas Eve and say they're planning for the next year, right?
Oh no. We have to plan our resources out because starting in January, that's the start of a new insurance year and all that kind of stuff with Medicare. So we got to have all those things in order.
Right. So just from a business perspective, because some people come to this looking for different things, right? So in our country, there's a lot of challenges with regards to businesses, and small businesses have limited capacity in terms of planning. And it's funny, Jack and I were just talking about that today. How small businesses plan and how sometimes the opportunities in the market for people to be fractional CFOs, right? Not a full CFO, because a lot of small businesses cannot afford that kind of planning and stuff. So for a size of business like yours, what would you advise for people, even for a smaller size business, in terms of financial planning, analysis, and strategy that are necessary to really help propel a business?
I mean, it all depends on the nature of the business that we're in. Because we're in the healthcare sector, And then even within the healthcare sector, 82% of our business comes from Medicare.
Right.
So what we have to do is we have to look at, the start of the new year and when all of the Medicare contracts begin. There's several different ones. And then we have to look at the services that Medicare covers and how the reimbursement for those services is either going to increase or decrease.
So for those who may not know it, what is Medicare? What's your simple explanation for Medicare to somebody?
Medicare is the government insurance for everybody over 65. Okay.
And
so
is
that's
that anything that Medicare in Liberia?
No, there's no government insurance. So everybody over 65 in America, as soon as you reach age 65, you're covered by the government insurance. You no longer purchase private insurance. However, there are certain services that Medicare dictates that you get from your doctor once you reach 65.
Right.
So, for example, every Medicare recipient must have an abdominal aortic aneurysm scan in that first year of becoming Medicare. And and all of these are preventative services. Okay. So they want you to have that. They want you to have an annual wellness visit. There's even something called a welcome to Medicare visit. If you're a smoker, there's certain risk factors. They want you to have what's called peripheral artery disease testing to make sure that your circulation in your limbs are working fine so you don't get GOA.
No, so with this kind of stuff, right? And that's one of them is a coming fundamental when it comes to healthcare, preventive healthcare and primary healthcare. You do foresee a lot of stuff, right? And there's opportunity for prevention and even early care that can prevent escalation and things worse than that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So basically, how you think a strong preventative program and primary care program in Liberia can help healthcare?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to identify what the risk factors are. So, for example, like I say to my wife, all of her patients got one of 7 diseases or one or more of 7 specific diseases. They all have either hypertension, hypothyroidism, they have high cholesterol, they have diabetes, they have, but for the most part, they got the same set of 7 diseases.
That is cohort. Yeah.
Those are the risk factors. Okay. So you got to basically be able to identify them. Now, for a population like Liberia, you can say just off the bat, a simple thing like blood pressure testing.
Right.
Okay. To see who's prone to blood pressure testing. Now, I will tell you this. Here's a thing that's really astounding because I have hypertension. The medications for hypertension are insanely cheap.
That's true.
Insanely cheap. I take a medication called metoprolol for my heart rate, and I take something called amlodipine. Those 2 medications together, out of pocket, cost me something like $10 or $15 a month.
Right.
Okay. Oh, no. That's not even right because I get a 90-day supply.
So that's 3 months.
And that's 3 months, and it doesn't come to more than $20.
Right.
So,
but that's based on your copay too, right?
No, that's out of pocket. It's higher if I go through insurance.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. They're still buying it retail. Okay. So if the government of Liberia, through the Minister of Health, could do a basic, statistical health assessment and say, 25% of the people over this age have hypertension. You need to figure out a way to offer them preventive care. Okay? To offer them the medications that will keep their pressure low. Okay?
And that's what's really missing. That's what's really missing.
So those are the people who have high cholesterol, diabetes, and things like that. And what people don't understand is what not doing that does is it decreases the lifetime of productivity for the citizens. Okay,
and that's why our what the average age that Liberians live for is like 53 or 54, something to that extent.
No, I think it's a little bit higher than that. But
Okay.
but even that, the question is, how long are they productive? You see what I'm saying?
The question could be, are they ever productive? Because
well, I mean, think about it. I agree with that, but think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can have people who can work until they're 65, 70 years old.
Right.
But if you're going to have people who have health problems at 55 or 52, then the rest of those years are not going to be productive. So, I think that the number one focus has to be on preventive care, and you got to basically break them up into age groups to say what are the major risk factors for people from this age to this other age. And that's what the whole Medicare screening, you got to do this, you got to do that. So, for example, somebody who's over 80, a woman who's over 80, they no longer require that she has a mammogram. You're 80 years old.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But somebody who's 65 years old, yes, you should have a mammogram.
Right.
Okay. And what people need to understand is the reason Medicare is willing to pay for those services is because it's much more expensive when that patient has a catastrophic illness.
Right. When they get really sick. Yes.
Right. So if you have a patient who has a stroke and they have to go to a stroke center, they need to have surgery to remove the blockage. They need to go to a recovery center. Right. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. Where it could have been averted if you spent maybe $1,000.
Yes. Wonderful stuff. We're going to get into healthcare later, right? But for today, let's look at the prevailing things around Liberia today, right? We have the different video situation. I don't know if you watched any of those videos at all.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't watch them.
Is there a reason why?
Because I knew they were fake. I knew they were fake. And so, my thing is, and I've always said this, I know that it wasn't Cummings and the ANC that put out these videos. So the question that I begin to ask is, what was the intention of the people who put out the video? And my answer to that, it was twofold. One, they got to make accusations of George Weah. And two, they got to have the backlash directed at Cummings.
And it's funny because I never talked about this, but I come from a similar perspective, right? That that was what it was.
They were able to kill two birds with one stone.
Yes.
Okay. And so they want to force Cummings to respond to something he didn't do. And so for that reason, I didn't watch it. I mean, I saw the thing with the white man giving, it was fake. And it was obvious that it was fake to me.
It was fake from jump. But unfortunately, it was widespread. But what's happening too is that the government is blaming Mr. Cummings as they're blaming for nearly everything,
Right.
And we can look at it two ways, right? In terms of investigating where this is coming from. And you have a better knowledge of technology. How can you trace the origin of a video?
Once it gets in circulation, it gets very difficult to do. It's different if it was on YouTube. I don't even know how it got in circulation. But if it's on YouTube, you can find out who the original YouTube poster was.
Right. And supposedly it was on YouTube. I know I read a piece from a young man, Aliu Caddy, who is being accused of distributing it. And I personally know him. I know he doesn't have that technology skill to develop something like that in the first place. He doesn't have the network to reach out there to get some fake white man to do some of the stuff. And it seems like, to some extent, why there's some people may believe it, because some of the stuff he says, they kind of grounded in some kind of rumor or some kind of truth to some extent about what has been happening. But to put all of that together and come up with some kind of conspiracy, I really think that is devious. I think.
Well, yeah, and somebody had something to do with it. But like I said, the first thing is the people who put the video together, they want to discredit both Mr. Weah and Mr. Cummings. My position has always been, you don't need to go that far to discredit Mr. Weah.
Simple.
You just look at his record.
Every day,
every day there's something new.
You know, so
Eric, you missed the point.
You totally missed the point. And
I said that Cummings is not behind it.
Right. But that's what he meant, but he left it not out. And then he asking, why has Cummings not denied it? Because
Cummings has denied it.
He
denied it on the show yesterday.
On the show yesterday, Cummings did. Cummings spoke with what's his name? Christopher Selly and Magdalene. And he
and here's the thing, right? Here's the thing with Cummings, you can't ask him to prove that he didn't make the video. Just like Eric, I can't ask you to prove that you stopped beating your wife. You can't. Once that accusation is made, there's no way for you to unprove that you don't beat your wife.
And there's the other school of thought that this guy just posted, that videos of political stuff from seditions. I really don't know the origin of it, but whoever did it, if they did it for the 2-4 reasons that we are thinking about, to kind of put we are in, I won't say a worse perspective, or secondly, to point fingers at Mr. Cummings, they were successful with it. And maybe that's what propaganda is about, you know?
That's exactly what propaganda is about.
Yeah. So I hope the government can investigate, you know, can get to the
I don't think okay, so just let me put it to you this way. I don't think the government has the resources to do that, the technical capability, nor do I think they should spend money doing it. I don't think it's worth it. You know, what the government needs to do is the government needs to embark on a much more deliberate course of trying to educate its citizens. Now, I saw that the Justice Minister wrote something about, you know, the fact that the video was false and all of that. You know.
Yeah, he did, and how it was serious to cause instability and all of that kind of stuff, you know.
Right. But
it goes beyond that, you know. Just the threat and accusation and saying that
what was missing.
This is what we need to do. It goes beyond.
What was missing from the Justice Minister was the fact that his Solicitor General, who literally he accused of committing fraud and forgery, charges have never been filed against him.
That's that. I mean, even before that, when the case was originally on, he had made similar charges against the Solicitor General and did nothing about it. And even his response to the Solicitor General. So I don't know whether there's an independent agency that's supposed to investigate some of these things.
No, the Justice Ministry is supposed to bring the Solicitor General up on charges. The Justice Minister has already made a public accusation.
Yeah, but I'm saying the Solicitor General also made accusations against the Justice Minister. Who investigates that? Who investigates
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So maybe the LSCC or maybe some independent body, but it just hasn't happened.
Right, but I'm not sure that ANC should spend time, defending or not defending that they didn't make the video. That's why, like I said, I didn't think it was worth my time, so I didn't spend any time on it.
Right. I mean, Mr. Cummings basically was very clear that he had nothing to do with this video. But again, there's some desperation on the government, especially, and there's probably some insecurity as to the popularity or the influence Mr. Cummings is gaining, and they're trying to subtract from that with these accusations, whether they make and they're making it across the entire country. That Mr. Cummings is responsible. Then they're also using the sanctions to say, so Mr. Cummings must be a very powerful man in the eyes of the government of Liberia for him to be responsible for all of these things. To
but the sanctions were and I'm not sure, but the sanctions was against the criminality of people in the government.
Exactly.
So on that count, even if Mr. Cummings were responsible, then the Liberian people owe him a debt of gratitude for forcing the government to take action that it didn't want to take before. Because
the government has not taken any action.
Right, but my point is, no. Were it not for these sanctions, these three individuals will still have their jobs.
Yeah, but the government did not take action. The individual resigned, supposedly. So this government still did not take actions.
Right.
And who said he was investigating the issue has not appointed, to my knowledge, anybody to investigate the incident.
I understand from a very reliable source at the UN General Assembly,
right,
that Claire Weir was investigating.
She was investigated, or she's investigating?
No, she's investigating the whole thing, and she had it on her phone at the UN General Assembly. I mean, that's what I thought I saw on the phone.
Man, look, I mean, but is it customary for presidents to take their wives to?
No, it's not. It's not. What they do is they
come
take
to the other functions.
They come to the other functions, not the official government function, right?
Because at the assembly, it should be the government officials. It should be those who should be, part of the process.
Yes.
Not a spouse and stuff like that, So, I heard he took a 25-man delegation. I wonder that delegation,
Why?
I would ask the same question, but I wonder why in that delegation, why are there 25 people, and who were those 25 people? What different events were they participating in and stuff like that? I don't know that we get a country report from these different international events when the government comes to. It's like there's no feedback, there's nothing. So how do we really assess the performance of our government at these international events?
I'm not sure, but taking a country like Liberia, taking 25-man delegation, when you consider the per diem, when you consider, the hotels, all of those expenses. I mean, it's not something we can afford.
Reggie Nassau said not just their wives, but their concubines.
Oh, well, you see.
That we ain't got proof, but you got something.
But we know that Claire was there, and we know that she was actively involved in investigating all the claims of sanctions, and we saw evidence of that on her phone.
So it's just sad that this whole Liberia, the way we present ourselves as a country.
Yes.
When you look at what happened, and some people are trying to dispute it, but there was definitely a case of the group being investigated by the U.S. immigration at the airport, and there were one or two citizens who went to that to meet the president, who have confirmed that to me that happened. So for
Yeah, but
folks,
didn't they send the list ahead? They should have.
yeah, we still gotta get processed through immigration. And maybe if they got questions about the list, they will question those individuals. And I'm not sure who was questioning who was not questioning, but I know there was chaos among the group, and they had issues among themselves, pointing fingers as to who was responsible. So, but I mean, just the overall presentation, George, it's like something has to be done better. They need to look at themselves because do they have another one before elections? Elections is probably October 10th. Yeah, there may be another
Yeah,
UNG. But I doubt if next year during election season we are
we
talking
will
about
attend.
UNG.
Right.
So this could be the last one if the opposition is serious to make we are a one-term president. Um, so that so how do you get away from the blame? Because this government has consistently blamed everybody else for their
But
incompetence, their lack of progress. They have blamed the previous government. For the
you
issues that
know,
are happening today, they are blaming Mr. Cummings. So
I have said this over and over about the people who become president of Liberia. And we saw this with Charles Taylor. One of the things we see consistently is they surround themselves with people who don't understand how things work, with people who don't understand protocol, and they move on and they tell the president everything he wants to hear. And then the president ends up being embarrassed.
but I don't think. Do you think the president really feels embarrassed with all these gaffes, faux pas,
Well, whether he
mistakes?
feels it or not, he is.
Yes, I
Yeah,
mean,
whether he feels it or not, if they are in, when you get to the airport and they have to slow your delegation down because you didn't have some paper correct. Look, I tell people this all the time. The primary reason I gave up my Liberian citizenship because of the inconvenience of traveling on a Liberian passport. Every single time I traveled, every country I traveled to, I mean, I was subjected to just scrutiny beyond measure compared to the other three people in the group I was traveling with, who my wife and kids. Okay, so as a result, when we had to travel, we never flew directly. Say we were coming back from Japan.
right.
We made it a point to spend the night in Los Angeles on our way back, rather than take a 2-hour connecting flight. Because even when I came back from Japan, even though I'm a resident of the US, I was still detained at the airport for
For our
like 90
green
minutes. Okay?
Wow.
90 minutes. So I just decided, you know what? I'm just
Not
going to go
worth
ahead and get my American passport. It's not worth it.
Right. So earlier, somebody had talked about this desperation. That's a use of this term. That Cummings is desperate to be president, or sometimes on the flip side, some people have said Boycott is desperate. But there's nobody who says, or the people who say that desperation, do they understand where this country is today in terms of how things have retrogressed in basically every sector, every subsector, every area? I don't know whether in every purpose. And I try to hold him to be a smart young man, but it doesn't seem like he understands how services has decreased,
Here's my thing, Isaac.
professionalism has decreased.
Okay. And I'm not a great campaign manager for Mr. Cummings. Here's my thing. If you look at where your life is right now,
You quoted
and
me
you say to yourself, this is where I want to be for the next 6 years, then guess what?
vote for we are.
Well, for we are. There's nothing I can do. If you can look at your life and say this is satisfactory, that we can't do better than this, Okay, but go across the border to Sierra Leone and see how well they are doing, that Liberians are going to Freetown for vacation. Look at the progress that nations like Rwanda are making. Even though they came from civil war, the same time Liberia came from civil war. And say to yourself, I believe that this is the best Liberia can do. If you believe that and you're happy with that, then vote for Mr. Weah again.
I have written that many times.
Vote for Mr. Weah again.
Many times. It's an easy decision in these elections because I think there's three primary persons. There's the current, Mr. Weah. If you think that performance is fine, if you think where government is today, if you think how people are being paid, if you think how people's salaries have been slashed, if you think on the healthcare situation, and you think that is fine, you got all the right. Go and vote for Mr. Weah. That's what democracy is about. It's about decision making for the individual citizen. On the flip side, if you think somebody who was there before, we didn't see much from either,
right,
can take us to a higher level and elevate us, go vote for them.
If Mr. Weah himself right now is saying most of the problems the government has were from the previous government, and you say to yourself,
situation,
yes, we need to bring that previous government in.
Yes.
Then go that way. But this is what I would tell you folks. Okay? I'm 62 years old. All right? I'm 62 years old. And next year, I will be 63. Whoever becomes president of Liberia next year will be president until I'm 69 years old, pushing 70. So here's my deal with you guys. If the becomes president of Liberia next year, I don't believe can make a change in Liberia over the next 6 years, I don't have the time to waste. I literally don't. From then on out, my life will be a constant vacation. That's all it will be, just a constant vacation.
And you are not alone in that category, right? There's a lot of professional Liberians all around the world who are, us, and that's our generation. There's a significant number of us who have accomplished different things and are at that, professional retirement age, but still have a lot that they can give and contribute to any developing nation, especially with the level of experience they have and the ability to teach and help. So it's up to the Liberian people if they want to see the improvement, if they want to get greater job creation, if they want a new influx of people. Because, look at the travel records in Liberia, the statistics.
But Isaac, everything about Liberia, one of the things as a technologist that I continue to marvel at when it comes to Liberia is how uniquely stupid Liberians are. Okay, now some of you might be insulted, but I will tell you this: technologies that work everywhere else in the world, when it comes to Liberia, they fail spectacularly. Case in point, after the 2017 elections, the ECOWAS sent out a team to do an after-action analysis of what went wrong. And I have a copy of that ECOWAS report. And the report said specifically in 2017 that for the next election, you needed to use biometric registration. This was in 2017.
That was 5 years ago.
Okay. Since then, they have had, I think, 2 or 3 by-elections. Nothing. Here we are now on the cusp of a national election. The NEC has now put out a tender to do the biometric registrations. But oh wait, there's a catch. Under the law that established the National Identification Registry, the NEC has no authority to do that.
And a lot of people don't understand that nuance either.
So what you're going to end up having, where you're supposed to have one biometric system that provides a unique identifier for everybody in the country, that serves as the foundational identifier for every system in the country. What you're going to do is you're going to have the NEC with its own biometrics. You're going to have the NIR with its own biometrics. You're going to have Social Security with its own biometrics. And you're even going to have passports.
Ministry of Foreign Affairs, yes, with their own.
Foreign Affairs with their own biometrics. But we wonder how these systems constantly fail in Liberia. And the reason they fail is because of the thing I call cannibalization, where whenever there's money in the government to perform a certain task, all of the different government agencies want to cannibalize that money.
Right.
Okay? You want to know where it's completely evident? It's completely evident in the legislature.
Yes, with the telecom and all that kind of stuff.
Okay? The fiber optic network has been installed in the Capitol building, I think, since 2010. It's there. But the legislators prefer to each get a monthly stipend for their communications.
Right. Then to have it.
So as a result, there's no network in the Capitol building. As a result, they can't have printing resources for the Capitol building. Everybody has to print separately. Everybody has to do something separately, so everybody can get maybe $100 or $200 a month.
But maybe they never heard the phrase shared services. I don't know.
Oh, no. They know about it. They know about it. They just want that money. I said, look at their budget. I think it was criticized, and they went ahead and changed it the other day. So let me give you an example. Let's say we got 100 of them, right? So for the 100 of them,
well, 103.
Okay, let's say 100. We got 100.
Yeah, just for math, 100.
Okay, we got 103, and let's say each one of them gets $250 a month for communications.
Right.
Okay.
That's 25,000, right?
That's 25,000, and that means that 25,000 times 12. But I think it's more than that, Isaac. Because when you talk about their printing and communications.
No, it's way more than that. It's more than that.
Okay, so I think it's about $400 or $500 or maybe even $600. The budget 2 years ago or 3 years ago laid it out. This time when they did it, they did it in such a way to hide it.
Right. But do you know that they even hit the president's salary in this year's budget?
Right.
Look, we're not serious in the country.
So you end up in a situation where the Capitol building has no printing services. Each of the members have to pay some outsider to do printing for them.
And because of that, they probably don't even print the things they're supposed to print.
Exactly.
That's why most of them don't even read those concessions that come across.
Let's talk about auto repairs.
Same thing.
They all get a stipend for auto repair.
What's GSA there for?
Okay, but you have GSA.
No pool service.
So let's say they each get, I don't know how much they get a year for auto repair.
You don't force me to take out the budget now, man. I don't open the budget. It can just be me invest on our budget.
But let's say they each get $1,500 a year for auto repair.
Right.
Okay.
You doing your math?
Yeah, so $1,500 a year for auto repair. But I would
1.5 million, right?
No. There's 100 of them.
Yeah, 1,500 times 100.
No, I think that's 150,000. Is that right?
No, 1,500, 100. No, that 1.5 million.
No, I got 150,000.
150,000, but it's lower.
Okay, but it's higher than that.
It's higher than that.
It's higher than that. So if all of that money, right, were taken and budgeted to the GSA garage, what you would have is a consistent pool of people who are trained to repair these vehicles. Okay? The fact that we don't standardize on the vehicles that we buy. So you can have somebody who spent $98,000, I think, on an SUV.
But you see, they got a bunch on fuel and lubricants vehicles.
Okay.
2022, they got 3.178 million.
Okay, so that's 3.1. That's $3 million. That should actually be going to GSA to provide those services for them. Okay, so what we end up with is people who are cannibalizing the government at every level.
I see why they got all that right. They got 4.635 million for transport equipment vehicles for this year.
Right.
The legislature, and then now they want retirement, my man.
But here's the thing, Isaac. They can buy any car they want. Right? The government just will buy the car they want for them. So what you end up with is you don't end up with any economy of scale.
None.
So let's say the government decided, we're going to go to Toyota and we're going to tell Toyota that we want 150 Tacomas. And we need Toyota to send us a master mechanic to train the mechanics at GSA. So they are the ones who are doing the repairs on these vehicles. So even when you order spare parts, you can do it on a larger scale.
You got to do it on a scale because there's statistics to clearly say what part of a car breaks down faster. What's the
exactly? But as it stands now, they all take their car to some Lebanese person's garage for repair.
Most likely.
This is money that's being taken out of the economy. And you should be able to spend it better.
But they don't look at the whole chain of expenditure and how money flows. I mean, unfortunately.
And here's the other thing. When they leave, they sell them the car at a reduced rate.
What do you mean when they leave? I think every 3 years. It's basically go for pennies on the dollars after 3 years of use. And that's across government, not only them.
Right.
So just imagine the waste. It's huge.
So
you start off with an expensive car, which for a government employee should be a least expensive car.
Right.
In 3 years' time, you say that car, based on your depreciation schedule, has close to zero value. And then you basically give it away free, which, I mean, it's a strain on the economy. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse.
And here's my thing, Isaac. The fact of the matter is Liberia is not that big. So I will give you again my own example. I lease a Jeep, and I'm allowed, based on my contract, 12,000 miles a year.
There you go.
Okay. The second year of my lease is coming up, and I'm just at 23,000 miles. Okay. But at 36,000 miles, they've already calculated the residual value of the Jeep to be about $31,000.
You can buy it at that point, or
okay, I can buy it at that point, or I can just say, you know what, I would just lease another one. Okay, so the point is, they're not saying to me, well, you lease this Jeep for 3 years, so come pay us $10,000 in ticket.
No, I can't say that.
They keep the residual value. But my point is, are these people racking up 75,000 miles in 3 years? Well, I mean, the maximum distance from Monrovia to Zwedru, I don't even think it's 600 miles.
What you call 600? Are you something wrong with you? Monrovia is close to in the center of the coastline. We have probably 300
miles. 300 miles.
300, because it's like 560 kilometers times 0.6. It's like 340 miles we got. So if you so anywhere from Monrovia to the rest of the country is not more than 225 miles.
Right.
So it's like what, 3 hours travel. Let's say if you're doing 65 miles per hour, 3 hours to 3 hour 30-minute travel should be anywhere in Liberia from Monrovia. Unfortunately, because of the road conditions, people spend a day and a half sometimes. And right now, they got this thing where they can say the road cut. So the road cut. People sleep on the road. Just recently in River says the road could not be navigated. Even the pimping guys had to tow the bikes on the head to get across to the other side. So it's just a terrible situation. And just to go back to the point we're making earlier, that people who believe things are fine the way they are, let them vote for we are. I mean, that's just what it is. If this man is receiving the amount of negativity that's being sent his way because of his incompetence, because of the lack of production from his government, the failure to move the economic needle forward for people. If people cannot see that, then let them vote for George Weah. But if people want change, real change, they want a difference, they want the opportunity for big business to come to Liberia, they want an opportunity for a restart, because like Melvin was just asking, which is a good question, George. And a lot of people have asked that before. Do you think we need a change in government or a rebirth of a nation? Because that's the same thing. If you say you're rebirthing the nation, you got to change the government. Where the restructuring of all dimensions of government to adjust to the economic status of the people. I don't know that you just adjust government to the economic status of people, but you got to seek improvement in the functioning of government. You got to have some level of transparency and accountability, which that's what the Americans have been asking us for. George, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
my biggest two things, okay, is we need to have transparency, but we need systems that help us enforce that transparency.
No question.
Okay, that's the first thing we need. The second thing we need to do is we need to recognize that the current political subdivision of Liberia is not workable. Okay? When you look at all the counties that we have, if you want to talk about decentralization and a better way to share resources, you can say clearly that because of the size of some of those counties, they're not economically viable. And that is just a fact.
We have agreed on that, because
nobody can come and make a case and say every county in the country is economically viable and could sustain itself if it were allowed to have dominion over all of its resources. It's not possible.
I found this on the web.
Well, somebody can make the argument there are ways. It depends if they have services on top of. As is, I agree with you.
Yeah, but they have to pay for those services, Isaac.
Yes, as is.
They have to pay for those services. My point is, if you took a county like Reimagine and said, you are responsible for your police force, you are responsible for your school system, you are responsible for all the other services that you would provide, and you have to support those services based on the revenue you generate from your resources, it's not possible.
They will beg to be a part of the republic.
It's not possible. No. What I'm saying is, even as a part of the republic, We have to
Well, I understand what
change.
you say. I mean, you can't decentralize to that level. There still has to be some central governance and other
No,
stuff.
no, no. But I agree that we need a central governance.
Right.
My point is the counties are not sustainable.
And they are not sustainable because there has been no industry set in those counties to their own comparative advantage, whatever it is, whether it is agriculture, whether it is mining, whether it there got to be something in River G that can provide some level of economic sustenance, whether it has been tapped into or not. That is the issue. And whether it's being exploited to the point where they probably don't have anything else, that's the issue. Because if you look at our county like River says, if you look at the forest in River says, if you look at the minerals in River
Yeah,
says,
but Isaac, you can't.
access to the ocean, River says can be a
You-
very viable county.
Isaac, you can't cut down all the forests.
No,
You
but
can't.
but you can get carbon credits for maintaining some of them. That can be a
Okay,
potential
listen.
opportunity. There are ways to do it.
Okay, so River Cess has
Mhm.
65,000 people. I'm sorry. Yeah, River Cess has 65,000 people.
Okay.
River G has 67,000 people.
Okay.
Maryland has 136,000 people. Grand
Right.
Coup has 57,000 people.
Right.
57,000.
And they got two districts there, I think.
Okay. Bommy 82. My point is, what was the point of dividing this country like this?
Because the tribal mindset was prevalent at those times, even though the people from Nima don't feel the gear and manners you are being in one county for some reason. I don't understand.
Okay, so you look at River Cess, you look at River G. How come they're not the same people?
Because they're not the same people.
Okay.
It's,
You know what?
It's different. If it's a different tribal group, the river is common, and Cess and G could be a little closer to each other, but they're not the same people. But
Here's my thing.
I don't believe in the tribal division. The tribal division takes away a lot from the potential of a nation. That's why a place like Rwanda, they have tried to move away from tribalism to more nationalism.
Clarence Pearson,
Clarence?
Here's the problem that you don't understand. Okay? You want people to invest in the private sector. It is the government that creates that opportunity.
An environment. It's an environment.
Okay? When I just talked about using technology to be transparent, that's what I was talking about. You have no systems. I had a guy. I had a guy who said to me one time, "Oh, I got this project, $1.5 million." There's things that he was selling you could buy from India for 25% of the price, and that's just research I did online. Okay,
but in the Liberian market, he's probably right.
But listen to this, Isaac. But here's my thing. Okay, even if you buy something off of eBay, they have a way that they rate their sellers. You understand what I'm saying? It would say this seller has so many different reviews. You don't even have those reference points when you go to do business in Liberia.
No.
So you're asking somebody. So let me go right now to my eBay.
What you want price? I'm
going to price a 34-inch monitor because that's what I always buy for the people in my office. So,
but that's because of the influx of cheap stuff that come in Liberia. Those are really commoditized and they're not too expensive anymore.
Okay, so
decent quality.
All right, so let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy. I'm looking here. A guy selling a Samsung 34-inch monitor for $299. But one of the things that it allows me to do is allow me to look at the seller's information. Okay, this seller has 100% positive feedback. Okay, 2,400 rating. People have responded, 2,500 positive feedback, 1 negative. So if I buy something from this guy, there's a very high probability that I will come as advertised.
Right, but there's no consumer ratings. The Lebanese
There's
people
nothing.
don't what they want to do. There's no credit. There's no consumer rating. So the economy, the business sector is just laissez-faire. Basically, they just do what they want.
So when Clarence says people should come and invest, okay, what are you asking them to invest in, Clarence?
Well, let's just decide what Clarence said.
But let me deal with this on a different issue.
Okay, deal.
My mother owns a piece of property in Congo Town. A lady went and sold that property to a third party.
And she doesn't have the mother deed.
Nothing. We've been in court now for 2.5 years trying to claim that property. Who do you think is going to invest in Liberia except somebody who's going to pull out a scam? But you see, you people sit there and you talk the nonsense about people don't want to invest in Liberia. Investment assumes that you're going to get a return, and you're going to get a positive return.
It's economics. It's plain and simple.
Okay, so you're asking people to invest, and you don't even seem to appreciate the climate.
But Clarence is being contradictory. You say we should consider seriously on how we can make proactive change, but you don't want anybody to talk about the issues. How can you not talk about the issues and then make change? Will change just come from heaven? Change can't just appear like that, Clarence. You got to understand the problems. And who told you it's only the diaspora? Are you assuming that people in Liberia are not complaining too? There are not people in Liberia who could invest in the economy, but they're holding the money right now because they're scared to lose it? Clarence, come on. The Liberian problem is not a diaspora situation. The Liberian problem primarily is government and of festering of corruption and other negative governance behaviors that's affecting us.
Look at the stuff that was written in the American Enterprise Institute.
No,
the article that was.
Oh, the blame Cummings again for that?
Right. Go to the CIA World. Go to the CIA World Fact Book that provides data on every country in the world. And you're asking people to focus on proactive change, but you don't want them to discuss the issues that come with people investing in Liberia and how those issues need to be addressed. Exactly. That's what proactive change is. So all you've done, Clarence, is provided a word salad of nonsense. That's all it is.
And maybe Clarence means well. You can't just push it aside, right? But he has
I would push it aside because you know what? When you come with all of this stuff and between the two different posts that you make, they are so cognitively dissonant. It's just you want to protect the government while at the same time saying we need to change. We need to change the way we do things. Who is the we?
We is the people. I mean, we can be the government. We is just an ambiguous pronoun sometimes that you don't know what it applies to. So you always got to specify. But look, this economy that we have, there's a huge opportunity. Somebody gave the example of Sino. And George, you and I were just discussing that. Mm-hmm. I think a few days ago.
We were talking about electricity, solar, and being able to provide that service between Sino and Grand Gide.
Right, but you also talk about the strength of Sino. Why would people in Cape Town grow timber or try to, harvest timber when timber is already a strength in Sino? The people in Cape Town and Grand Gide, and they can actually start, carpentry, furniture, and other stuff.
Producing wood materials for internal consumption.
Why we can say all schools in Liberia? Somebody showed a picture of the vice president somewhere with an ugly looking desk and stuff. Why can't we do our own materials? We can train our carpenters to refine, because the most difficult part, I think, from our craftsmen is finishing. Most of them can finish well. If they could finish well, things would be so much better because we have
And here's a part of the problem.
Creative people.
Here's a part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're spending so much time on the basic stuff, they have less time to finish. Isaac, if you're making a desk for a school, you know all of those things are cut.
Look at the tools they use. That's
right.
They don't.
That's exactly where I'm coming. That's exactly where I'm coming from.
Right. Yeah.
All of those desks are cut by routers. Okay. You put the information in the computer, and you say, cut 500 of these desktops, cut 500 legs, cut 500 seats, and the machine does it, and all they have to do is polish it and put it together.
And that machines for polishing too now, for smoothing and polishing. That machines
exactly.
So if you want to do a serious furniture business, it's highly possible, because you consistently and continuously need furniture for government, for businesses, for schools, for churches, for halls and stuff like that. So the market is there. Unfortunately, Lolita, that opportunity is now rendered to the counties, and government is supposed to support investments like that.
Thomas Balu says the Chamber of Commerce in Liberia needs to be reworked. Thomas, listen, we need to stop putting these things on the private sector to fix the problems that the government doesn't have in place. Let me give you an example. When you go to buy a house in America, it doesn't matter what state you are in. There is something called a uniform mortgage application.
Yes.
Okay? Meaning across the country, there's one application that you will fill out, irrespective of what state you are in. But that's not by magic.
Just even make it simple. Doors have standard size, but look at any door in Liberia. You will see it shipping this way. You will see the space in Liberia. How people will die.
So let's go to what Isaac is saying. In America, in construction, there's a difference between the exterior door and the interior door.
Yes.
The interior door can be made of paper. The exterior door must have a certain type of frame, and it must have a certain thickness, and it must be built of a certain kind of material. That's standard. So let me tell you what you get from that before you start talking about how the Chamber of Commerce needs to be reworked. You get companies that they only make exterior doors.
Then you can specialize.
You get companies that only make interior doors. That's all they make. Okay? Some companies only make a certain kind of window.
And the value chain is clear.
Okay, so you can have a small company, a small carpenter shop that say, you know what? We only make the frame for the door. That's all we make. Somebody else actually make the door, and when that person, they're not waiting for you to come and say, oh, I won't buy a door, you got to make it for me. They're just cranking out doors to that specific size.
Right, and they know they have an estimate of the market, so they're producing to
exactly.
meet the demand. And
so every house that is built will have 2 exterior doors. You know that. Every house that is built will have 2 exterior door frames. Depending on the number of the rooms in the house, you would need 2 interior doors. The material for the interior doors are different. All of these are done by the government. If you go to Home Depot, any one of you who live here, you can go and say, I'm looking for a specific size of screw. And you will find that screw. Guess what? There's a company that makes that specific screw.
And sometimes to differentiate, when some people make furniture, make other stuff, they may do different dimensions of screws, but it must have that confidence that projection is doing. It will get to the market.
It will get to the market and will be bought.
Yes, it will be bought. And that's the difference. We don't have that, and we need to develop that clearance.
It's government that builds that infrastructure on which the Chamber of Commerce now comes and says, you know what? We need to do more to support the Liberian Association of Carpenters in terms of building stuff with the standards that the government has set. That's how it works.
And
So to
that's
simply come and say we need to rework the Chamber of Commerce, but you don't want to touch the fact that the government has produced no standards for anything. And as soon as people say it's not there, you say, oh, you just won't criticize the government.
so Clarence, you know how many people have just taken companies to Liberia and being strong? Didn't you hear what they accused McGill of with people coming to make investment in Liberia? Clarence, what are you thinking?
Listen, but here's my thing, Clarence.
That right environment.
But here's my thing, Clarence.
And they don't try to extort the people coming to do business.
But here's my thing.
Has no relevance.
Here's my thing, Clarence. Okay, and you know I don't want to be dismissive of what you say. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's been done before somewhere. Liberia is not unique that you need to go and set up a consultancy and tell them how to standardize on those. The Americans have already standardized on those. The Europeans have already standardized on those. You think the way the Ghanaians are building, they haven't standardized on those? They've done it. Your government is just not willing to step up and say, where is the heavy lifting we have to do so our different industries can thrive? Instead, somebody should go there and say, oh, you know what, Mr. McGill, I want to set up consultancy so I can teach you people how to standardize because Ghana is doing it, Sierra Leone is doing it, everybody else is doing it, except you dumb Liberians. I mean, you know, I'm not talking specifically to you, but we need to begin to take responsibility for the things that our government is not doing. And we need to look at our neighbors and figure out how come they are doing it, but we seem to be the only ones that are stuck in this morass.
And just so you know, Clarence, I hope you know that the U.S. government is actually the largest employer in the U.S. The U.S. government probably has 2.8 million employees, and probably next to them is Walmart.
And they are the largest purchaser of goods and services.
Exactly, and they are timely.
As the government of Liberia should be.
They are timely purchasers. They don't hold people invoices like the government of Liberia does when people provide, you know, services. So
you got people that the government of Liberia owe for 4 or 5 years. How are they going to stay in business?
They can't.
In the United States, there is a law that says that the government must pay you within 10 days of accepting your invoice, or they have to pay you interest.
You know,
there's a law that says they have to do that. So don't come to me and tell me about what the Chamber of Commerce must do when the government hasn't done its part. I keep saying this.
You switched to Liberians who claim they have money. Clarence,
okay.
A lot of Liberians have money, good money.
So even Liberians who claim they have money, okay, what you're asking a Liberian to do is to let's not look at the people who are wealthy, okay? This is what you don't understand, Clarence. There is an entire industry across the world of people who are recruiting Americans who have retired, who have money coming from the government, their Social Security. Okay? So if you look at Thailand has a program to recruit retired Americans. Y'all come live here. Okay? If your retirement is $2,500 a month, come live in Thailand. Spend that $2,500 a month here. So you don't have to necessarily have people who are millionaires who are coming to Liberia, but you need to create the culture where those people who have that kind of money can come and retire to Liberia. Let me give you an example. If you took 25,000 people,
are you on mute, Josh?
No.
Oh. What example are you giving?
I'm giving him the example of 25,000 people retire. Well, let's just say 20,000.
Well, we've done those calculations so many times.
Right, but I need to share it with him so he can get a better understanding. Okay?
You because the calculation with him? Share your screen if you want.
Man.
Share my screen?
Yeah, share your screen. Let's do it.
All right.
So, because he's talking about people with plenty of money. You don't need people with plenty of money.
No.
You don't.
Share screen. And we'll do it blank so we can just walk through it so you can see that I'm magic. Okay. So you can see the screen, right?
Yeah. So you take 20,000 people
So we say 20,000 people
who get $2,500 a month in retirement money.
They get $2,500 a month in retirement
Right.
money.
Hmm? And they're all going to retire to Liberia.
Right. So that total revenue coming to Liberia, assuming that they will spend that,
that's $50 million a year.
50 million
A month. A month.
Yeah, monthly, yes.
That's $50 million every month. Okay? Multiply by 12.
600 million, I believe.
That's $600 million. So when you sit there and talk about, oh, what about people who got money? You're trying to catch the big fish.
Exactly. And somebody
Okay.
just asked me that. Do you want to sell 1,000 things and make $1 on each, or sell 10 things and make $50 on it? You want to sell
So-
1,000 and
so-
make $1. So attack your population. Make the
So
environment.
what do these people want? They want electricity.
Okay.
They want healthcare. Okay. They want housing.
Oh, they also want services too. They want hospital.
They want services. Right. But so let's say the government of Liberia decided that it would invest $100 million a year on housing, electricity, and healthcare.
Why even a year?
No. But Isaac, hold on. A year. Over a 5-year period, you're going to generate $3 billion in revenue from this one group of people. $3 billion.
That's true. I mean, if you provide these services, yeah, the electricity, the healthcare, decent housing,
Right.
houseboy, watchman, driver, probably some of
But
them.
Isaac,
extra
all of these
care.
people don't. They come in to live in their own house, so you can build you can build apartments. You can create apartments. You can set up
Right,
the
because
environment.
some of these people would need consistent around them. So they
Right.
need boss quarter. The opportunities, if government really focus on making a difference for all these people.
So we're only talking about the people who could retire to Liberia with a $2,500 a month Social Security payment. 20,000 of them over the next 10 years would generate
That's $6 billion.
600. Yeah, I
Trillion.
mean, look at yes. So you people are not even talking about it, and you basically sitting here telling us about we're criticizing the government, but the fact of the matter is that what is stopping people from going to Liberia is because all of these things are missing. All of these things are missing.
$6 billion in 10 years you can get from these people, and they're probably more. If you really look at it, probably more. And if things were better and people were more honest, Liberian people right now today, we are not as honest as we can be.
I think the reason we're not honest is because we are struggling
and desperate. So most
we
people
are
are not
desperate.
honest.
Okay, so every opportunity somebody gets in Liberia, they want to maximize that opportunity, even if they have to use fraud.
Your own family, your own friend will script you right on the spot simply because they don't know when they will have that opportunity again to get mad. You send people money to they do whatever they want. You send them to just process a document. You send gotta send money to 2 or 3 different people. Simply because people are desperate. You send somebody $100, they have a priority need. That person's family eat that day. To look at that $100 and go pay to
Right.
Revenue Authority or to go pay to the business registration versus taking $10 and using it for the family. I mean, how many people will not do that? So it's not easy. That one thing that true. Mr. Cummings is the mastermind, the blaming for everything right now.
Mhm. But I'm sitting here. You say, okay, there go Clarence again. I want to stick with Clarence. Clarence, you in the class today. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. Where's Small? I couldn't catch the man. You don't even know what he's talking about. Okay. Most of the real estate investments here in the United States Isaac, put that up. Is private sector investments.
Okay, you say would you put back that spreadsheet?
No. The thing that Clarence just posted.
Oh, Clarence it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, government aside. Let me come and destroy the nonsense that you're talking about. Do you know who the largest funder of housing is in America?
The government.
It's Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. You know that? You don't even know. When you go to buy a house and you get VA funding, VA is the government. When you go to buy a house and you get an FHA loan, that's the government, Clarence.
The government.
You don't even know this.
The economy to turn around, to churn. They call it
Okay.
churn, to turn over. The farmers are highly subsidized in this country.
What are you talking about? You want to pretend here that you just go to a bank and get money? When you apply for an FHA loan for a house and you only got to put down 10%, who do you think backs that loan? It's the federal government.
Government must work. So our government has a lot of work to do to create this environment.
You're sitting here in this country and you act like you learned something and you don't even know how anything works. When you said there is no private investment in this country that doesn't rest on the shoulders of the government.
Look at 9/11. Look at COVID. Look at Ebola. Look at the when the market fell. Government steps in. Government steps in and help small businesses. Why you think Ellen Cochran in jail today? I don't even know she's in jail. But it happens because as much as the government is open, there are other people who think they can take advantage of government opportunities. All the funding that's out there.
You go to the bank and you put your money in the bank. The federal government guarantees that up to $250,000 the bank manager came outside tomorrow and said, this bank is closed, we don't have any money.
They will give you that
the federal government will give you your money.
But what happened? Okay? The people, I think people lost serious money when a couple of banks closed during the war and during other instances. They lost money. Yes. No accountability.
So you don't know what you're talking about? Clarence, when you talk about investment opportunities in real estate.
Clarence, we don't even have proof that we own land.
Exactly.
Land, somebody said they own your land, they bring colors to that land, you got to run away from the person with the colors. So there's just so much things we have to change that have to come into control.
Liberia is the only country in the world where its citizens believe that private people must do what the government is not doing.
Did you say, even if the government invests in Candy Crush games, people will get jobs. It is a sector. Didi, trust me, the Liberian people, if they were just trained, our young people are smart. They are creative. They can just teach them coding. There are opportunities out there for them to develop apps, develop games, and all of those things. But the environment has to be right for that to happen. They just look. Somebody was just talking to me back in the day when we were younger. In that Broad Street stretch from Crown Hill to Snapper Hill, there were so many clubs, so many bars. Now you can't even want to go in that area at night. You know how many people losing opportunities from the person who could own a bar, to the person who could be bartender, to the person who could be doorbell, to the person who could clean the club, to the person who actually will hustle the customers there, to the person who will park the car. So many persons eating loss because no electricity in Central Monrovia and people are scared to be out. So until we can get a better environment, it's going to be extremely difficult for anything to happen. And we don't see it happening under this government. That's why we're telling people, if you really believe your future is in the government, if you believe your children will get the appropriate education, look at the level of critical thinking that we have today. It's very limited. Look at the ability of people to write. It's very limited. Oh my God. Clarence, show your research.
What Clarence says, why don't I take advantage of it and invest in the country? So let me tell you something, Clarence. After 2013, I decided, you know what? I'm going to focus on the United States. My wife decided that we should open a private clinic. Do you know who our largest customer is for that private clinic? It's the federal government. 82% of our patients are Medicare patients. We don't have to argue with them about payment or anything like that. They come, we see them, we send a bill to the federal government. The federal government pays us in 14 days. Okay? Guess what?
Here's what I found.
If there were not that guarantee of payment, we wouldn't be able to do the business that we're doing. If the federal government, like the Liberian government said to us, it would take us 2 years to pay you, we wouldn't be able to sustain the practice. So I don't really understand why it is you people keep talking about about these things that are not possible.
You mean they're possible, but they're not being done, and they're not realistic to ask individual citizens or people in the diaspora or even people in Liberia to invest at the rate they want to invest when the investment climate, the investment environment is not conducive for them. Oh my God. I just saw it right here. Also, our favorite in front of me, the U.S. is the largest investor in real estate. I don't know where you're getting your information from.
Okay, so he says you should do your research. Let him provide us with the research that he's done that says that. You provide your research.
No, I will show you. Josh, let me show him 2 screens. Okay, let me come here. So I mean, it's just a matter of doing math now. So Pearson, stay with us. Okay. So we share the screen right here. Okay, so you see here, assets, you see these capital management companies. This is $73 billion in assets in real estate. If you come here to this screen, you see the loans and loans guarantees from the federal government, 1.363 trillion. So that's, you divide this by 5, that's 272 billion compared with 73 billion. You see the difference on an annual basis for the U.S. government?
No, but he just made that statement. Please do your research. So let me kind of put the ground rules in here for you right now, Clarence. Okay? When you make a claim, you need to provide the information. Don't make a claim and then ask me to go and disprove your claim. Okay?
But then, Clarence, what are you saying? If you're saying much is needed to improve the investment climate, why do you want people to just go lose money? Why can't we tell government to improve you know how long the Liberian Business Association...
It's the government that needs to improve the investment climate. It's not the private sector.
Even the last summit they had, they made significant recommendations to the government to how to improve for Liberian content to be a valuable part of our investment. You talk about the Lebanese people. Lebanese people get external funding to come into our country and take money out because business is good. If you can be corrupt and charge any price you want to charge, you can beat the airport. I mean, you can beat the stuff at the Freeport. Your stuff.
Look at the contract that was recently awarded by the NEC for the biometric thing. You know, one of the conditions was that you had to be able to pre-finance everything.
Oh, that
tells me. You know what that tells me? So let's say the everything that was needed was like $8 million. Okay? And in order to pre-finance, it means you have to have $8 million to give to the government for as long as they need to use it before they go to pay you. As opposed to there being an environment where the banks trust the government to pay its bills on time, and I can go to a bank and say, listen, I got this government contract, and I need you to lend me $4 million because the government will pay me in 6 months.
And they will have that confidence that the government will pay.
And they will have the confidence that the government will pay you.
That's a major part of business. Confidence and assurance that things will happen.
If that environment existed, the NEC would not be demanding that a business be able to pre-finance. Because guess who can now do the pre-financing? Foreigners. It's foreigners.
And that's a whole market by itself right there too.
Okay, but as a part of the pre-financing, here's the deal. The government pays a premium for that pre-financing because built into the price is the fact that the government might not pay them for 2 years.
So you know, not to knock on government, nobody really wants to be fussing with government. Don't you understand? We want to be on good terms with government. We just want an environment where you can compete and you can compete fairly. We're talking about housing. There's no contract that is really on the courts are so corrupt. You can really own a land where everybody know you've been there for so long, and somebody who got money or live influence can come and take that thing or encroach on your land, and nothing you can do if the courts will not support you.
Look, there's a guy named Nouvel. There's a house that's right next to the Nigerian embassy. This guy approached my mother to buy that property. She said no. He went and got somebody to create a fake deed for him.
Wow.
Took the property, built the house on it. He was one of Charles Taylor's men. When Charles Taylor got out of office, the court awarded the property to my mother. So the same guy, wait a minute now, the same guy then comes back to my mother
to buy his own house.
To buy his own house that he built.
Power, impunity is just sickening. It's just sickening.
But the court didn't take any action against him as long as Taylor was in power.
Yep.
So for 5 or 6 years, he took it, he built the house, and deprived us of the ability to use the land.
Yes, you actually sued for the years.
So whose fault is that, Clarence? Where's the investment climate that you're talking about?
No, so you know, I mean, not to knock on government, everybody wants, because once the government is doing well, the country does well. We are all proud, we are all happy. Oh, but I don't really know politics yet. Okay, so let dissect the other one from Clarence again. Sorry, folks, but Clarence is the one who provided all the funny things we're talking about. Competitive bidding process has standards. You either meet the requirements or not. Isaac, even the U.S. has much to be desired. What we are saying is that change will come through Liberians. Okay, put it this way. Can we go home and have a consortium of interested Liberians wanting to discuss constructively how we can move our country forward? Clarence, that's what we're doing here.
Go.
You know how many people
Pack
have
your bags, leave your house, leave your family, and go. And let's see how long that was going to last.
Clarence,
you people live in La La Land, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, Clarence.
Oh, I know
what you are saying is just nonsense. Me, George Fambulan, sitting down right here, a permanent resident in the United States. I had a specific skill that the federal government needed. You understand? They gave me a contract to perform that specific skill. So when you sit there and talk about competitive bidding, and there's a process, and even when I bid on a contract, and I felt there was a problem, I had a way to go to redress.
Today not small guy. Today say we got government official, we got criminal official.
What you people want again? You still coming back to, let's not change the government. Let us go back as citizens and be the ones who put in the structure for the government to work.
That doesn't happen.
That's essentially your position, Clarence.
Well, Clarence is a man of God, or supposedly he's the general overseer and founder for the Grace United Christian Church.
Yeah, well.
In Burlington. Clarence, you live in Burlington, New Jersey? Clarence, this mind of thinking, I hope you're not thinking that God will change Liberia.
It's fantasy. And that's why Liberia is stuck where it is. All of these people know exactly what needs to happen to change Liberia. But they don't want you to discuss politics. They want it to change by magic.
No,
I don't need your sympathy.
Thank you. That's what I was just about to tell you, Joe. I
don't need your damn sympathy. You see my swimming pool?
You see the pool behind?
You see my swimming pool? That's my swimming pool in my backyard. Do I look like I need you to feel sorry for me?
Clarence, someone like me, my family was poor. We built house on the rocks when nobody else was up that Ashburn Street Hill. But the life we live as kids, millions of Liberian children today not living that life.
Boss man, the life I'm living in America right now, I couldn't have dreamed of living it in Liberia. Even when I was a child, running around Oro with my 10-toe on the ground, riding my bicycle.
So people should understand. It's just that we care. And some of us, we care to the detriment that we have lost friends. We have lost relationships. But it doesn't matter because Liberia comes first.
Well, of course, I'm discussing the issue with sentiments. But you think I want you to, I don't want you to sympathize with me, old man. Okay? Because here's my thing, Clarence. Okay? If you do it, fine. If you don't do it, fine.
That's a business.
Because guess what? My swimming pool will still be beyond there. Okay? It's not going to change my life. In the winter, Clarence, in the winter, when it's cold, I can turn the heat on.
You can heat your pool.
The swimming pool, the whole swimming pool can get warm. Okay? So I don't need you to feel sorry for me or to have sympathy with me. If the government doesn't do what it needs to do, all Liberians are behind.
Right. And all of them are behind. Talk about it. We have to talk about it. Even though some of us will stop talking very soon, but we have to talk about it. You know,
if it doesn't change next year, I don't care. After next year, I don't care. Like I said, I'll be 63 years old, and I would just be about enjoying my life at that point.
Lasana is being honest here. The situation in Liberia is ugly. That's what he says. One good thing I observed during the Taylor regime was the All-Liberian Conference. I guess it was held in Banga. I think we should go back to doing that. I never participated. Well, I don't know. We want better. We want better for our country. The situation in Liberia is ugly, and that's the recognition that that a lot of people force to present differently. They know things are wrong. It's obviously even the people in government today. Many of them, they know they're wrong. Look, JFK over the last 3 years, basically no medication has been dispensed from JFK. You go there, you got to go to the only doctor. What did it say just last week? No, this week.
It's the same cannibalization.
Yes, this week, I think an assistant minister went for dental to take out a tooth, and he died from it. Maybe the infection. maybe their unprofessionalism. And because we don't have systems, so we can't really go to the root cause of many of these things, why they're happening.
So Augustus Papi, what is your question? What exactly is your question? That the only contribution you can see is a physical contribution?
Physical contribution.
Land in Liberia that somebody stole. Okay? Before you can't talk nonsense to me. I got land in Liberia that I've been fighting to gain control of for 3 years.
All right, John, let's run through a few comments. I know we've been doing it already, but there maybe have been some comments that we didn't touch. But seriously, folks, we love the interactive nature of this conversation. And, we appreciate people who come and watch and try to make a case, whether it's a case for government, it's a case for the country, it's a case for or against diasporans. All of these are how we can reimagine the kind of Liberia we want, and we can try to find solutions to what, what we really want as a people. So, yeah, Joy, I will let you address this.
Okay.
Can any one of you speak to the desperation of Cummings for the presidency? Why is he so desperate?
So I just told you that I'm 63 years old. I will be 63 next year. If things don't change in Liberia, I will wash my hands of Liberia permanently. So let me explain to you. If you don't understand that your situation is desperate, all right, where you sit there and you say, oh, Cummings is desperate. My friend, Cummings has money. Cummings has a ton of money. He retired from Coca-Cola with stock, and his stock holdings are still available for you to research online. So if you don't understand that the situation in Liberia is desperate and it needs to change, then let things continue to go the way it is. You are the ones who are desperate. And the fact that you don't recognize your desperation, the fact that you don't recognize that you don't have adequate health care, the fact that you don't recognize that you don't have adequate sanitation, the fact that you don't recognize that you don't have adequate housing, the fact that you don't recognize that you don't have adequate electricity, the fact that you don't recognize that you don't have adequate infrastructure. If that doesn't cause you to be desperate,
and all of what George named just now, cause your productivity level as an individual to be limited. You can't function to even your 50% level. That's
if you look at all those things and say those are not desperate situations, then vote for the person you want to vote for and continue your suffering. You see, it's one thing for people to suffer and understand that, I'm really suffering. What do I need to do to change my suffering? It's another thing for people to suffer and say, we're not actually suffering. You're the one who's telling all we're suffering, but we're not suffering. You don't have food security. You don't have health security. You don't have electricity. You don't have any of the things that would make your life different. But the man who's coming to tell you this is what you need, he's the desperate one.
Yes, exactly. The man who has, to a large extent, no reason to do this. There's no compelling reasons.
He's the one who's desperate.
And he's putting himself on the line because of his passion, his patriotism, his commitment to give back. And all people can do is label him negatively and call him desperate. No, he's not desperate.
And I will tell you the truth. Okay? Even if Cummings became president of Liberia tomorrow, listen to me very clearly. Any position in government, I want nothing. I just want the country to work. I just want it to work. Clarence, you sound like an idiot.
No, you see, I knew it was going to come to this.
Okay, it will always come to that. You go to a hospital tomorrow, it will be a private hospital. Let me explain something to you, Chief, that you don't understand. There is no hospital in the United States, none, that exists without taking Medicare money. Do you know how the federal government got hospitals in the South to desegregate? Do you know how? The federal government decided that if you are going to have segregated facilities in the hospital, they were no longer going to pay a hospital bills for people who came to the hospital. Some of them say, okay, yeah, we'll go out of business. You know how many of them went out of business? Because they refused to take federal government money? You go to the doctor. Do you understand what Medicaid is? Medicaid is a federal service for people who are too poor to afford their own insurance. Who pays that money to the government? Is it not the federal government? So even my private clinic that I own and run is privately owned. But guess what? We can't exist without the funding, without Medicare paying the bills.
No, you can't.
So you sit there and you just talk. You have no idea how things work in America. You don't. You don't have a clue. So let me ask you this. You're not talking about who pays my hospital bill in America. I don't go to the hospital for free. When somebody builds a hospital in America, you know why they build it? It's a business. That business needs customers. That business needs people to pay. And guess who pays? Medicare. The majority of the people who are admitted to the hospital are in a certain age group. It's not young people that are admitted to the hospital overwhelmingly. It's old people. So those are the people who pay for those services. Okay, you are expecting too much too soon. Your country is almost 600 years old. And you're telling me I'm expecting too much too soon? When y'all be ready now? When? Do you know that Singapore went from a third world country to a first world country in 25 years? 25 years. You're expecting too much too soon. You just sit down in this country, you don't know how anything works, and you come on the radio and you talk nonsense. Okay, move that man from my screen, man. Bring somebody else here.
Yeah, Reggie, you're right. The video was rubbish, and definitely coming to never respond, to George Weah with that level of insanity. No, he wouldn't.
Exactly, Tokma. Every aspect of American life that has changed because of the federal government and its ability and the fact that they are the largest customer.
But they lead the effort. They lead the thing on innovative ways to
If you do this, if you are going to discriminate, you can't get federal money. Guess what? We will not discriminate again.
That's a fact. How do you think change comes about?
Colleges, schools, transportation, police departments, all of that stuff. You people don't know you don't know the impact of government on the lives of individual Americans. Here's a private business. No private business can exist in this country without the assistance of the federal government. Look at the COVID pandemic. Look at the amount of people who ran businesses that got free money from the government in the millions of dollars. Do you think if people had to sustain themselves during the COVID pandemic when there was a lockdown and nobody was going to their businesses, you think they would have stayed in business? You don't know what you're talking about, man. Right now, look at electric vehicles and the amount of money that the federal government is making. Okay? So it's not free money. Who said it was free money? Who said it was free money?
And access to capital doesn't mean you're getting it free either. You don't start off just getting.
It's not free money.
Sometimes you have to pay
back. You go home because you're so ignorant. You pack your stuff and go home. Listen, you see the place in there? You see the place in there?
Well, maybe you need to show them in the camera. Let me see around you.
you see the place in there? I don't went there. Okay, it's not free money. The fact of the matter is, you keep jumping all around and making all these specious arguments. So what you're saying is the government in the United States is able to take the revenue it gets from people who pay taxes and invest that money into the medical system. Okay? To invest that money into the education system. The revenue that the government of Liberia collects, where is it going? Explain it to me. I'm waiting for you, Chief.
No, he can't. All right, folks, I think it's been a wonderful session. Probably
man.
Nearly an hour and a half or more.
Let me go. Let me go take my blood pressure medicine.
Clarence, I want to tell you thank you for getting George excited. You get more of him that way. But tell us, you use one or two colorful words.
I don't understand these people, man.
No, I think Clarence is being provoking.
Especially the people who are sitting here in America.
They should understand the system and know that things work when it's systematic.
Shouldn't you want for Liberia the things you have in America?
Trust me, in Liberia, they didn't have system. They see what we acted in Liberia. So they do anything we want to do that, just what will happen here. But because systems are here, we can't do that. Most Liberians are different when they operate in Liberia versus when they operate in
America.
Yes, they're different. And that's what will change on our communist government too. People in the diaspora will not that kind. They are funny and just think they can be free. No, we have good extradition agreement with the U.S. government. Oh no, Clarence, George and I've been talking about us going home for I don't know how many years. We have done this calculation of the infusion of diaspora people in the regular annual bill up. The diaspora programs that people who probably don't want to go can participate in with the level of technology today, the level of knowledge that can be imparted remotely, all of those things. Clarence, we have thought about it. But it cannot happen except you have a government that understands that without an integration.
I don't need to go home to figure it out. I've already figured it out, my friend. I've given this thing more than 35 years of thought. I understand how systems work. I understand how systems are constructed.
Our thought process probably older than Clarence. Clarence, how old are you?
So don't tell me I need to go and figure it out. I don't need to figure it out. I'm already telling you what's not working.
We've been thinking about this thing longer than you probably have. Minutes, Clarence.
You don't have any systems to measure anything. You can't gather metrics. So how do you know how many people you need to feed? How do you know where you're going to build schools? How do you know any of those things? When you can't collect data? And I should go home and figure out to collect data. Listen, here's my thing, Clarence.
Start from the identification. You can't even identify the people. How you collect data?
Right. Clarence, here's my thing. Okay, and I will leave you on this note.
Clarence, if you lie, go and I bless you. You say you're a man of God. Don't tell me you're older.
Clarence, I will leave you with this. Okay, if God chooses to bless you, that's between you and him. I'm an atheist, so I don't give a shit if he does anyway. But anyway, here's my thing. Every problem Liberia has, Clarence, has been solved somewhere in the world before. There is no problem that Liberia faces that has not been solved in the world before. You can't point me to one. Only in Liberia, we have chosen to ignore those solutions because the people in the government want to steal. Let's come back to the NEC. The NEC wants $12 million to do voter biometrics. But the law says only the National Identification Registry can do biometric IDs. What do you want to bet? The NEC is going to get that $12 million. The National Identification Registry does not have money to operate. And so Liberia is not going to have a national registration system, but they're going to have a national voter registration system. Those two things are the same. That problem has been solved in the world before. It's not a question of us figuring out the solution.
No, nothing new, nothing new. But George,
it's a problem of it not working.
I know Clarence got you hyper, but we got to call it.
Nah, man.
I'm going to Daniel's funeral tomorrow. My friend Daniel May, I know most of you know about him, the guy who built the school in Mowe in River Cess. I'm going to his funeral tomorrow. So just so you guys know, geez, I don't know if my George, did your desktop WhatsApp change?
No.
I guess I got some kind of messed up version. I just keep crashing. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe you need to play some more Candy Crush.
I'm telling you, Candy Crush is the most popular game right now. But folks, thank you.
Clarence, Doric, that's not true. There's a lot of us. There are a lot of people, Doric, who are just in case Christians.
Doric, I'm on the fence. Some of the things that I want to attribute to God, that aren't God. Some of the things I want to attribute to witchcraft, that aren't witchcraft. It's simple science, okay? So I'm on the fence about this whole thing, but seriously, there's some higher power somewhere that there's some things that happen that we don't understand, even though some people think science can explain everything. I don't know.
Because we don't understand it doesn't mean that it's God, but that's okay. We'll talk about that somewhere else. We'll talk about it
another time. But thank you all. We appreciate it. The show was nice. We look forward to connecting with you again next week. Take care, Clarence. We love you. We hope your mindset starts to change as you think about this Liberia thing, because we can keep talking about it all day, but we really, really need a government that works. And the only way a government can work is the people in government has to work to make those things happen. Thank you. Peace.